Good morning and welcome to the Adobe Twitch channel at twitch.tv/Adobe. My name is Terry White, worldwide design and photography evangelist for Adobe, and it's my pleasure to stream to you for the next couple of hours in a two-part series. So for those of you who are new to the stream, welcome. For those of you watching the video on demand or the replay on my YouTube channel, thanks. And for those of you who are watching the video on demand and replays, know that this is a live show that happens every Tuesday and Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern and 11 a.m. Eastern till noon Eastern, every Tuesday and Friday. However, the Adobe Twitch channel itself is live pretty much all day, every day, 7 days a week. So if you're looking for something creative to watch, something creative to look at, to join in, to learn from, just stay tuned to twitch.tv/Adobe all day, every day. With that said, the first part of today's stream, which usually has a random topic. Today's topic is Lightroom hidden gems and Q&A. So I'll be taking Q&A from the chat. For those of you watching the video on demand and replays, I will go over here like this a lot and look to see what the questions are, because that's my other display, which has the chat window in it. If you wish to ask questions in the future, you can, of course, always join us live, and you don't have to pay anything or even create an account unless you do want to ask questions. Then you can go ahead and create a free account on Twitch. So with that said, looks like we've got some folks already in here. Good morning, Victoria. Good morning, Just Proud to Be. Good morning, Dream Float Joe. And I think those are all the people I saw give a shout out this morning so far. Good morning. Oh, hang on. I need to refresh my chat window. I need to put that window over here. There we go. Rafus is in the house. I saw GoBJ69. I saw some others. I may have missed some hellos in the meantime, but let me close the static chat window that wasn't doing anything. Video's lagging by half a second. Well, that is the state of Twitch sometimes. Exact same configuration. Sometimes it has a lag, sometimes it doesn't. So with that said, I will go to a smaller me, so that way hopefully the lag will be less noticeable. Good morning, Renee. And let's switch gears. Yo, Marky. All right. So for those of you who are Lightroom users, or those of you who want to be Lightroom users, today this first hour is all about Lightroom. Then in the second hour at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, we're going to be doing part 5, I think it is, of my intro to Photoshop Creative Cloud learning stream. So today's topic at 11 is all about Camera Raw and the Camera Raw filter and doing all the adjustments that we can possibly do with that filter in an hour. So stay tuned for that. And if you guys want to hang out and watch Lightroom in the meantime, great. If you want to check out Photoshop at 11, also great. So with that said, let's go ahead and kick things off. Okay, so I've got a list of hidden gems here that I don't want to forget. Let me pull my list over so I can see them. There we go. And these are in no particular order other than I'm going to do them in the order that Lightroom is divided into. So in the order of the modules themselves. So I'm in the library module, which is where you do most of your organization, your metadata, your flagging, your, what else is there? Flagging, metadata, organization. That's pretty much it. That's what the library panel is all about. Now you'll notice that the panels are at the top here, as they always are and always have been. You have library, develop, map, book, slideshow, print, and web. But there are probably some Lightroom users out there that don't use all of the modules. For example, I love the map module. I use it all the time for my landscape shots. But if you never, ever, ever need to geotag or work with geotagged photos, then chances are you never, ever, ever go to the map module. Same thing for our slideshow. If you're never doing presentations or making slideshows of your videos to music, then you may never use the slideshow module, or you may never use the web module. Whatever the module is that you may or may not use, one of the first hidden gems is that you can disable that module so that you don't see it anymore in Lightroom. So it just keeps Lightroom that much neater. You're not looking at modules that you don't use on a regular basis. So one of the ways you can do that is just simply right click anywhere on this bar near the modules, and you'll see that they're all checked because I'm showing them all. And I can say, you know what? I don't use web. I do, but I don't today. So I can go ahead and turn that module off. Or I don't use book. I can go ahead and turn that module off. So that way Lightroom stays in its simplest form just for the things that I do use. And if you ever want them back, you can of course right click and turn them back on, or simply say show all. So that's one of your first hidden gems. While we're here in the library module, one of the questions I always get, especially from beginners, is how did you get your name up there? How do I get my name up there? Mine just says Lightroom or whatever it says. This is called a custom identity plate. And you can set up an identity plate from your Lightroom menu. So for example, there's an identity plate setup. Mine is a logo. So this is all just one ping file. It's my TW logo with Terry White Photography spelled out. That's just a ping file created inside Photoshop. And then once I was ready to use that, I just simply went in and said identity plate setup. And I went custom, and I located the file, and I told it to use the file that I had saved out of Photoshop. Ping file with a transparent background. That way it says my name up there, or my studio name, or whatever it is, so that customers that are looking over my shoulder, or models or whoever, wow, it's the Terry White Photography application. And that way they don't see anything about Lightroom. So it's kind of a cool feature to have, to be able to customize Lightroom to look like you want it to look in terms of your logo or your identity. Now, if you don't want to use a graphic, you can just use text. Before I was using a graphic, I was just using text that said Terry White Photography. And you can pick the font and everything else that you want it to be in. You can also, while we're here, you can customize the look and feel of your modules too. Let me just pick something that will stand out. I would never use this font, but just to show it to you. There it is, Papyrus. So I got Papyrus modules now. Don't do that. But if you have a font that kind of matches the look and feel of your identity plate, then you can even go that much further for your modules. And if you ever get lost and say, oh my God, I don't like what I chose, how do I get back? Just know that they were in Myriad Pro to begin with. But you can change that to whatever font, whatever size you have installed, and whatever color. You can even choose the color of those modules for when they're active and when they're not active. You can set that up as well. So I saw a couple questions come in already. So Locurus Lil is asking, in the slideshow, you can create a slideshow in video? Absolutely. You can make a slideshow using your photos. You can have music or not. And then you can export that slideshow out as video. So absolutely you can do that. Yeah, I mean, Premiere, absolutely. The question, a person saying, oh, I use Premiere Pro to do that. Premiere Pro is absolutely going to be the best video editor you can have that will let you customize it to your heart's content and make exactly the video you want. But if you just wanted something simple and quick, that still looks pretty good, you can use the slideshow module to create that video. All right, so that's the identity plate, and that's how my logo and name got up there in the upper left-hand corner. You can also choose the Lightroom or Lightroom mobile identity plate, and again, you can customize it to your heart's content. So here are some of the other ones I've done in the past that were text-based, and right now I'm using the custom one that we've got here. So let me see something, for example, here. Let me see TWP logo. Let's see if that shows up. Okay, cool. Let me save it so that way if I ever switch back and forth, I can go back to the one that has the logo on it. All right, so that was one of the hidden gems that people are always asking. What can the web module do? Never tried it. Well, the web module was designed from day one to allow you to create a web gallery of your photos and export that web gallery or FTP that web gallery to your hosting provider. So that way you can create a web page of your photos. That's what the web module has always been for. Now, over the past years, let me go to it since we have questions on it. I was going to get to it later, but one of the things you'll notice right off the bat, and it looks like I hadn't gone to it in this latest update, but it's letting me know that Flash-based web templates are no longer supported in Lightroom 6/Lightroom CC. So that means, and if we go up here to the ones that are built in, these are now all HTML5 based. So hang on for a second here. Oh, we're not streaming. All right, let's see if we're back. Okay. Are we back? Looks like we're back. All right, so as I was saying, the web module is designed to allow you to take a collection of photos, a selection of photos, and output a actual web HTML5 based gallery that you can then upload to a hosting provider. All right, and we're back. Okay, good. So it has a lot of built-in templates, many of which you can change the parameters and change the settings for. So here's clean versus charcoal versus dark poppy seed, so forth and so on. And again, these are all built-in templates. You don't have to do anything extra, but once you customize it with your site title, your photographs, your name, and all that, then you have the choice at the very bottom to FTP it or just simply export it. So you can either upload it if you configure it with your FTP information, or you can just export it out as a folder of HTML, and then you can do anything you want with that folder. So that's what the web module has always been for in Lightroom. All right, let's go back to where we were. And let's check the questions real quick here. All right, got the question on the web module. Yep, we're back. All right. Okay, let's go back now and let's continue on. Bold array, I have been for months, so the green screen's not new. All right, let's continue on with my list here. All right, so we were back in the library module. I diverted over to the web module to answer a question. Let's go back to the library module. Let's talk about some more hidden gems. This is Q&A, so the questions are okay. You guys can feel free to ask a question whenever you want about anything you want Lightroom related, and I will do my best to address it. Now, if it's something that I know I'm going to do a little bit later, I may tell you to hold off for a second until I get to it. But the web module wasn't really something that I had in my plans, so that's why I went ahead and talked about it now. All right, so with that said, let's continue on with my plan random list of things to talk about. So let's talk about solo mode. One of the things that can be kind of daunting in the panels here is when you have a long laundry list. Here, let's click on a photo. You have a long laundry list of things that you're going to work on, especially in the develop module. So what you can do is you can right click anywhere, like not on a specific item. So I just right clicked on this bar. And, oh, sorry. I didn't mean to turn off quick develop. But actually that's another hidden gem. But anyway, if you right click, there's something called solo mode. And what solo mode does is it puts the focus only on one area at a time. So instead of me having quick develop turned down, keywording turned down, metadata turned down and toggled down, and comments toggled down, if I go to solo mode, what that will do is it will basically toggle everything else up except the one thing I'm looking at. So if I want to look at metadata, look at what happens to quick develop. Quick develop gets toggled back, it gets turned back up, and now I'm looking at just metadata. So that way my list is always short. I'm not looking at things I'm not actually actively working on, and the solo mode will make it a lot easier for people that just don't have to constantly keep scrolling up and down a long list of options in these panels. And one of the ones that I kind of hit by mistake, I wasn't ready to go to it yet, was if you also right click anywhere in this area, you notice that each one of these has a check mark by it. So just like the modules at the top that we were able to turn off and turn on, we're also able to turn off and turn on individual modules in the panels that you don't use. So for example, I rarely ever use quick develop. I do use it, and the only time I do use it is on video. Since Lightroom can quick develop video, but it can't take video into the develop module. So that's the only time I use it. But prior to video, I didn't use it at all. So prior to video, I would just turn it off because I don't need it. I don't ever use it. If I want to develop a photo, I go into the develop module. Quick develop was always kind of, I would start using it and it would always be missing the thing I needed to use. And so I'd end up going to the develop module anyway. I would now leave it turned off if it wasn't for video, because I do use it whenever I'm trying to make a quick adjustment to video inside Lightroom. So I saw some other questions pop in real quick here. Let me get to those. Gel111, yes, I use Lightroom instead of Bridge. I always have. They are different applications. Bridge is great as a file manager for the rest of the Creative Cloud applications, but for photography, I absolutely use Lightroom and always have. Do you think that it's kind of redundant? Do I think that what's kind of redundant? That there are two applications that have a lot of overlap? There always are two applications that have a lot of overlap. Illustrator and Photoshop have a lot of overlap, although there's distinctly different applications that do distinctly different things. But you can do a lot of the same things in either one. So yes, there's overlap. Yes, there's redundancy. But once you get past the few things they do the same, there's drastic differences between the two. What's the optimal editing workspace? Okay, Smurf4638 is asking, what's the optimal editing workspace room light? Do you need a 5500 Kelvin bulb, 6500 Kelvin bulb? What's optimal monitor specs, so forth and so on? I will say this, that I have watched people work in optimal settings. I'm not one of those people. What I mean by that is I used to work before Adobe 20 years ago, I used to work actually in a digital photo lab. I was in the computer part of it, but I used to watch people do retouching full time. The room was always dark, meaning there was no external light. They were just using the light from the monitors, and their monitors were calibrated each day. So there is no specific monitor, optimal monitor spec. It's really about, you want a good quality monitor, and if your mission is color critical, meaning the work you do has to match the output day in and day out, then you're going to want a color calibrated monitor or some system to color calibrate that. That is not my expertise whatsoever. I think I've color calibrated one monitor in my life. one time. Just because my output, if I'm looking at this photo, for example, that I have on screen, and I do a print of it, and I look at that print and it looks like the photo and it kind of looks the same, I'm good. Now, if I were selling the clothes that she's wearing, or marketing to the person selling the clothes, and that beige that she's wearing has to be the exact beige that's going to be represented in the clothes, then my attitude about that would totally change. But for my work, for what I do, that's not as much of a big concern. The output, like usually when I get prints back, they're either pretty much dead on or way off, meaning something really went wrong. So instead of that being a beige blouse, it would be orange. So I know that the rest of the photo is trash too. And that's rare, but I have had that happen where I've sent like 10 prints and 9 of them come back pretty much perfect and one is like drastically off. So rarely is it a situation for me that it's off by more than a little if it's not off a lot. And I never color calibrate because that's not my workflow. But for people that have that workflow, I would say that most people I've seen work in pretty much a dark environment because they don't want the lights that they're using to contaminate what they're seeing on screen. And in that case, that's a whole different setup. All right, looks like I got past those questions. Let's keep going. Where did we leave off? We left off on solo mode. And let's talk about another hidden gem, which is reviewing and caps lock review. So one of the things about reviewing your photos is that now you have multiple options to do that. So in the past, prior to, I think it was Lightroom 5, I would have gone into Loop View to look at this photo larger, which is, by the way, as a hidden gem, it's hitting the letter E on the keyboard. You can also have buttons for it or on-screen buttons for it here. So this is Grid, which is letter G, E, which is Loop View, and Compare, and we'll get into those in a minute. But when I go to Loop View, of course, now I'm looking at the photo larger and I'm making decisions based on whether or not I want to keep that photo, or if that photo is a pick or a selection or a keeper or any of the other words we've used. So as a matter of fact, what I want to do, let's go to a different folder here. Let's go to, I thought I saw something earlier. Edits. There was one. Alina. Okay, so here we'll go to these. You'll notice that I've got a folder called Edits, and which has only got 14 images in it. Those were the ultimate selections that we both made on this set of photos. But then there's a bigger gallery of 408 photos. Those are the ones that came out of the camera that I ended up keeping for the selection process, meaning I got rid of all the bad ones, the ones with the eyes closed, the ones where the flash didn't fire, all the ones that were automatically discarded, meaning I'm not going to ever use them. And then I ended up with 408 left. So if I go to that folder, or I'm sorry, that collection, we'll start to see all 408 of those photos. Now, when I started the selection process of these, again, the selection process was to quickly get rid of the ones that we knew we didn't, or I knew I didn't want to use. So in the past, that would have been going to the Loop View and making a decision by either A, choosing an option such as a flag, a star rating, a label, and then going to the next photo, or just going to the next photo. So in this case, it's not a must keep, it's not a throwaway, let's just go to the next photo. And I would just hit the right arrow key to go to the next photo. Now let's say I decided, although we're already past all these edits and this job's already completed, but let's say I go to this next set of edits, or this next photo, and I decide I want to flag it some kind of way. Let's say I want to give it a green flag. So I'll hit the number 8. So that gives it a green flag, and I could have clicked green down here, and I see that the green is highlighted. Now, it stayed on this photo. So that means it's waiting for me to either do something else or go to the next one. So I can hit the right arrow and go to the next one. So for people that want to review faster, meaning you don't want to have to click, hit a button, hit two buttons, three buttons, if you're going to stick to one kind of method, meaning I'm either going to mark it a pick or go to the next one, or mark it a reject and go to the next one, or I'm going to do a color label or not a color label and go to the next one. If you're going to stick to one thing or one set of things, meaning you always want one thing done to the photo, then you can put your caps lock key down, which I just did, and now whatever you choose will automatically, it will do whatever you choose, but then it will automatically advance to the next photo. So for example, let's say I skip this one, and let's say I don't like this one, so I hit X for reject. So as soon as I hit X, it jumped to the next photo. I don't like this one either because her hand is not completely in the frame and it's not far enough out of the frame, so let's mark that one as a reject. So see what that's doing is I'm hitting one key and it's quickly going to the next photo. And I could say, whatever, this is nothing, it's not a pick, reject, or flag. I'm just going to go to the next one. And then I can, from here, again, choose whatever. So if I give this one a 3-star, I hit the number 3, it gave it a 3-star rating and jumped to the next one. So that's what I mean by you get to use anything you want, but you only get to use one of them. So if you wanted to make something a pick and a 4-star, then you'd have to go back to the photo to give it the second thing. You'd have to go back to the photo to give it the pick flag, or back to the photo to give it the star, because it's only going to let you do one before it jumps to the next photo. So it's speed review by putting down the caps lock, and that's great if you only want to do one thing. I tend to not do the speed review because I'm usually doing more than one thing. I'm usually doing color labels and sometimes stars. And for those of you who are new to Lightroom and saying, oh no, when do I use whichever one? When do I use pick flags? When do I use stars? When do I use color labels? There is no set rule. Everyone has their own template or their own definition of when they use what. So as I've said many times in the past, I reserve the pick flag for the customer, client, subject's choice. I use color labels for my choice and I'll say the crew that worked on the photos. So whether it's the makeup artist, the hairstylist, the wardrobe designer, whoever it is, I assign them all colors. So we always use colors, meaning me, the crew. And star ratings are kind of a combination of both. When the subject likes a photo and when one of the crew likes a photo, I'll give it either a pick and a color label and a star. So it just depends on who I'm doing the project for. But there is one thing that is consistent throughout, no matter what kind of edits I'm doing. A reject is a reject. So if I say that a photo is not going to be used, I don't want it to be part of their selection process, I don't want to ever see that photo again, that will always be an X no matter what. So if I go to this photo and I don't like this photo, even though this one's okay, I hit the letter X and that will mark it as a reject. You can see the little reject flags down here on the film strip. So that one's a reject. And these are rejects. And you can see them down here, and that means that photo is now slated to be deleted. And that's what the reject flags are for. So that would be the one thing that remains consistent throughout. All right. Next up. So we talked about speed review. Let's talk about creating DNG and smart previews, and previews in general. All right, so I'm going to actually turn off my caps lock. Actually, before we do that, and I hit the letter G to go back to the grid. Let me do one more thing to the interface, a couple more things to the interface actually, to help you learn faster ways of seeing more of your photos and less of Lightroom at the same time. All right, before I do that, I got one thing to check real quick here. All right. Okay, just wanted to do a quick check on that. display. All right. So let's see, where do I begin? First and foremost, one thing that Lightroom has, one of many things that Lightroom shares in common with Photoshop, and that's a keyboard shortcut that we've used for years inside Photoshop, whether you used it on purpose or by accident, and that's the Tab key. If you hit the Tab key on your keyboard, in Photoshop, it hides all the panels. Same thing here in Lightroom. Just hitting the Tab key will quickly hide all the panels so that I can see, I should say this. Hitting the Tab key will hide the left and right panels. Hitting the Tab key again will bring them out. Hitting Shift Tab will turn off all the panels. So it got rid of the panel at the top. It got rid of the ones at the left and bottom. It got rid of the ones at the bottom, the film strip. It basically gave me a whole screen of grid. So hitting Shift Tab will, of course, bring it all back. So you have Tab, left and right panels, but still gives me my identity plate and menu bar at the top, and my film strip, or Shift Tab to get rid of both. And of course, Shift Tab will bring it all back again. The other thing that I talked about during the review process, and I talked about that in the past, I would have used Loop, which is the letter E. Well, I don't use Loop anymore for reviewing because there's a better way now. There is the full screen, the letter F. Now, the letter F used to be a different keyboard shortcut in the past. I'll explain the difference. But the letter F will go full screen, and you still have your keyboard shortcuts for P for pick, X for reject, 1 through 5 for your star ratings, 6, 7, 8, 9 for your color labels. Once you know those numbers, basically 0 through 9, what they do, and P for pick, X for reject, you can still have your caps lock key down, you can hit the keys, and it will go advance to the next image. But you get to see a nice full screen version of it where you're looking for little details that will help you determine whether or not you want to use that photo or not. All right. Here, let me scroll past a few of these here. We did a lot of photos of that look. I'm going to jump to some of these just to switch things up a little bit. All right. The other modes for making selections are also important. A lot of times when you're trying to choose between photo A and photo B, it helps when you can see them next to each other. So Lightroom gives you the ability to do that. So GoBJ69 is asking, what are DNG files? I'll get to that in a minute. In the case of wanting to see photos that are similar and you kind of want to see them next to each other, what you can do is hold down your Shift or Command key or Shift or Control key on Windows to pick your second photo. So for example, maybe I want this one to be my second one. So now that both of those photos are selected, you have two different modes for looking at multiple photos. You have Compare, which is the letter C, and you have Survey, which is the letter N. What's the difference? Compare, and this is one of those situations where I would hit the Tab key because I want to get rid of those panels. Compare will always show you two photos next to each other. But notice what happens when I go to the next photo. When I go to the next photo, it keeps the one photo as my select, meaning the one I'm comparing it to. Then I can go to the next photo and I can mark it as a reject, I can mark it as a pick, I can do whatever. Now down here, so what you're trying to decide is which one you like better. So let's say I go to this one and I like this one better. Then what I can do is I can say, you know what? I forget which one's which. Make this one the select. So I can say, you know what? That becomes my new select now. And I can then go in and compare it with others. So that's what the compare mode lets you do. It always lets you stay static with one photo as your select and compare it against different candidates until you find the perfect photo you're looking for. So in this case, I can say, you know what, her eyes are closed on that one. I can mark that one as a reject, and I can keep going. And her eyes are closed on purpose on these, but if it was a blink and you want to get rid of it, that would be one way to do it. So select versus candidate, that's why you have compare mode. When you want to look at more than one or more than two at a time, that's when you use survey. So for example, let's say I'm trying to decide which is the best one between these 5. So I just shift select those 5 photos, and I just looking at them in the small thumbnails, I can't decide. And when I zoom up to full screen and I go one by one, I kind of forget what the first one looked like. So I want to kind of see them all together. That's what survey is for. So instead of comparing 2 at a time, I can click survey and look at all 5 at one time. And again, if I get rid of my panels, they get bigger. So now I can say, now that I can see them all next to each other, I can start making my choices or eliminations. So I can kind of say, well, for example, I don't like her elbow on this one. So take that one out of the mix. Don't delete it. Don't mark it as a reject. Just take it out of this selection process. So each one has an X in the lower right-hand corner. Just get rid of that, and it will readjust the photos to show you the new grouping. So if the larger the monitor, the more stuff you hide, the bigger they will be. So then I can say, well, out of these 4, I don't like this one as much anymore. So I get rid of that one. Now I'm down to 3. And then out of these 3, not crazy about this one compared to the other 2. So now, and see, they just got bigger because there's more room. And now we're down to these 2, and again, I'm just arbitrarily saying this, but okay, I like this one the best, and that one becomes my best one, and I can then mark that as a green flag, meaning I love it, or give it a 5-star rating, hitting the number 5, meaning I love it. That becomes my new photo. So that's what these modes are for when you're comparing or surveying multiple photos. Now there's one newer mode in Lightroom 6 and Lightroom CC, and that is the people view. The people view allows you to tag your photos based on facial recognition. Now I don't know, these probably have not been done. So let's go to that view. So if I click on people, it's now looking for people in the photo. So this means it's scanning through the photos looking for faces. And since I've identified Alina in the past, Lightroom knows what she looks like. And it's now asking, hey, is this Alina? And notice what it's doing. If the pictures are similar enough, it's starting to stack them together. So here's 13 that look very similar. Here are 2 and 4 that look very similar. And it's going through all of the photos, just looking for faces and saying, hey, these look like faces to me. And sometimes it guesses wrong, so that's not a face, but you can kind of see where, yeah, I can see where it thinks those are 2 eyes and a nose and whatever. But it's starting to look, and sometimes it will guess wrong because it thinks that's a different person. So I'm going to say, you know what? No, that's not a face at all. Just go ahead and take it out of the equation. And if it guesses right, you can just check the box saying, yep, you got it right. If it guesses wrong, you can correct the name or just tell it, no, this is not a person you want to identify. Wait, what facial recognition? Elsie finished. The facial recognition has been in Lightroom since Lightroom 6 and CC. All right, so the people view. All right, so now it's doing this, and let's say I say, yeah, these are all Alina. So I check the box, and it's now added those to, it's added the Alina people tag to those photos. And I could then say, you know what? Not only are those Alina, these are all Alina too. I can just drag them up, and that way I don't have to keep going click, 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 click. I can drag all of those photos up. As a matter of fact, we know these are all Alina because these are all the same person. So I can grab all of these if I can do it fast enough, and I can say these are all Alina. And every time I identify a face, Lightroom gets smarter about who that person is, because you might have pictures of that person throughout their entire life, especially if you're doing your family photos. So as that person grew up, they look a little different throughout their life. And if you go identify their child pictures, their teenage pictures, their adult pictures, so forth and so on, then Lightroom will get that much smarter as you going through and identifying the photos. All right, so GoBJ69 is asking again, what are DNG files? DNG stands for digital negative. DNG is a non-proprietary RAW format, so it's what I convert my photos into. And since you asked, we'll jump to that hidden gem so I don't run out of time for it. So let's go to demo content. And in my demo content, I've got some DNGs, and I've also got two photos that I just added to this morning. I've got two NEFs. So if anyone's been around photography long enough, you probably know what NEF stands or NEF is. It's the Nikon RAW format. And just like CR2 is the Canon RAW format. And every camera manufacturer has their own RAW format. So imagine if one day a camera company goes out of business. And you think, I've got hundreds of thousands of photos I've taken with that camera manufacturer's camera over the years. Well, as soon as a company goes out of business, other companies have to decide how much longer they're going to support that proprietary format. They're not going to get any more support for the company because it's gone. And if you don't think it can happen, Kodak used to have a RAW format. So it happens where they stop supporting a RAW format and it goes away. And luckily, Adobe's been pretty good about maintaining the support for older formats, but it's not a guarantee, it's not a lock. And since these are your lifelong memories, these are the kinds of things you don't ever want to not be able to open up someday. You want them in a format that's going to survive time. So we never think about JPEG going out of business because there's no such company called JPEG. Well, there might be, but there's no such company that controls the format. JPEG is an open standard. Anyone can write to it. Anyone can write a piece of software that can read it. That's why JPEG is so synonymous with all the different software manufacturers and all the different camera manufacturers. We don't have that agreement yet amongst camera manufacturers that will all agree to use one format. So Nikon has theirs, Canon has theirs, Fujitsu has theirs, or Fuji has theirs, not Fujitsu. Olympus has theirs, Sony has theirs, everybody has their own. Adobe proposed a standard a while back called digital negative. And there are now some cameras that shoot in DNG. Like if you go buy a DJI Phantom drone, if it shoots RAW, it shoots in DNG. That way, DJI doesn't have to keep updating a RAW format. They just make it shoot in RAW or DNG, and anything that can open up DNG, which is anything can open up DNG, should be able to read that format. So all the Adobe software supports it, of course, that supports RAW files. Most of your built-in operating system software, so like Photos app on Mac supports it. So it's an open standard for RAW files. What you can do to convert, here's another hidden gem, is if you bring in those RAW files from your camera and you say, hey, I'm kind of thinking about what Terry said, I want these files to last forever. At any given point, whenever you decide, you can say, hey, you know what? I don't want these to be in a proprietary format anymore. I want them to be in an open proposed standard. So let's go to Library, and let's convert to DNG. So when I convert those two photos to DNG, it will give me some default choices, which I like. Only convert RAW files. It doesn't make sense to convert JPEGs because they're not RAW. Delete the originals after a successful conversion. I don't need both. And embed the fast load data, which is a Lightroom feature that makes them load faster. So we'll click OK, and it will now convert those two in the background. All right. You love your new custom font header in Lightroom on Android on Twitch. Okay, cool. And so it's converting those, and once it successfully converts, it pitches the original NEF file, and now I have a DNG file that I don't ever have to worry about DNG going out of business. Just like I don't ever have to worry about JPEG going out of business. And looks like we lost our stream again. All right, hopefully we're back. All right, so hang on for a second here. Let me just make sure the stream's up. All right. So make sure we're up and running before I answer GoBJ69's question. Okay, looks like we're back. So just out of curiosity, can one create negatives out of digital photos in Lightroom or Photoshop? If so, how? For mobile as well? Well, it depends on what you mean by create negatives. Um, Normally, it's a one-way process. You go from a negative to a digital file or a print. You don't go back to a negative. So I'm going to say the answer to your question is no. Lightroom doesn't create negatives. It creates digital negatives, but it doesn't create traditional negatives, and nor does Photoshop. Now, there is an invert feature that you can invert a file to make it look like a negative in Photoshop, but that's not creating a negative. It's creating a negative image. All right, well, Smurf4638, you don't have to miss me. I'm here. All right, so next, let's continue on. And we got about 12 minutes before my learning stream. Let me jump back over to my list of things. Let's talk about smart collections, and let's talk about collections in general. So what is a smart collection? We know what well, maybe we don't, but a collection is a grouping of photos that you make based on a set of criteria that you give Lightroom. So I'm sorry, a collection is a grouping of photos that you manually make by just putting photos in a collection. It's like a playlist in your music software. My stream just will not stay stable today for some reason. Hold on. Yeah, the stream does keep crashing. I'm not sure why. Okay, hopefully it will stay up. I'm not sure why it keeps timing out or going down. Lots of tech issues. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. It's Twitch is just having one of those days that it has sometimes. All right, back to what we were saying. So where was I? I was talking about collections. So collections are a way of manually organizing your photos. That's the best way to put it. So for example, if I wanted to put or create a new collection with this one picture of the cat and this one picture of a castle, I can go create a new collection. I can call it Cats and Castles. And I can put it anywhere I want. So I can say, put this in my demo content, and no, don't sync it, but include those two photos. So now that will create a collection that is now Cats and Castles. Those photos have not been duplicated. They've just been organized into an area where I can always get to them. Now that's a manual process. So that means that I'm going through, I'm picking which photos I want and either dragging them in or adding them to the collection at the time that I create the collection. So that's what collections are for. However, Lightroom has had, pretty much since the day one of collections, the ability to automatically create a collection. That means that it can create a collection based on whatever criteria you give it. So for example, let's say that I give this one the keyword, let's deselect that one. Let's give this one a keyword keywording. We'll give this one a keyword cat. Very appropriate. All right. Now, I may have other cat pictures. I may. My daughters have both have cats, so I'm sure I do have other cat pictures. What I'd love to do is have Lightroom go find all my cat pictures and put them together for me. I've got over 180,000 photos in Lightroom. I don't want to have to manually go through 187,000 photos and find them one by one. So what I can do is create a smart collection. And when I create a smart collection, I can then give it whatever category or whatever criteria I want. So I want cats is the name, and yep, go ahead and put it inside my demo set. And then I can give it any one of these, any multiple combinations of these criteria. So file type, if I was looking for all my DNG files, I could find those. If I'm looking for camera info, I can find all the ones shot with a specific camera. If I'm looking for other metadata, such as keywords, I can find all the ones that have the keyword cat in them. Now, I can add other rules. Maybe I want all the cats that are JPEGs. I want all the cats that are 5 stars. I want all the cats that are whatever. You can add as many rules as you want to this. You can have 10 rules, 20 rules, whatever it takes to find the photos you're looking for. All the cats shot in a certain date range, photographed in a certain date range. So we'll go ahead and say create. And yep, it found cat woman, it found cats, it found kittens, it found every cat photo I have. And it put it in one collection, including the ones that are lions, the ones with my daughters, so forth and so on. So that's what a smart collection can do. It found 152 photos of all the photos I have with the keyword cat in them. So that is what the smart collections will do. And again, you can make it whatever criteria you want. So if I click on one of these photos, let me see what this one has on it. All right, so it has the cat's name. That particular cat's name is Quimby. So let's right click on this and let's find just the Quimby pictures. So edit smart collection. And now I'm going to go ahead and add another. I can either add just the keyword Quimby or change it to Quimby, or add the keyword. I want it to have both. I want it to have been identified as both things. So we go back to other metadata, keywords, put in Quimby. And now it will have, it will drop it from 154 down to 34 photos of just the Quimby cat photos. So that's how smart collections work. I use smart collections all the time to quickly identify photos. For example, I keep a running smart collection that will identify photos that were shot with my iPhone 6S Plus, because I want to quickly find all my iPhone photography. And the way you update that collection will be based on any changes you make. So this one does not have the keyword Quimby on it, but if I gave it that keyword now, there we go. So now it has both keywords, and now guess what? If I go back to my cats smart collection, that has now been added to the collection because it has both keywords. It matches the criteria. So that's what smart collections are for. Yes, John, it will be. And sorry about the Star Crunch is saying there were Twitch problems last night as well. Sorry about that. So guys, we've got 5 more minutes, and then we're going to switch gears. We're going to continue streaming. I'm going to actually stop the stream for a minute, and then we'll pick the stream right back up, just long enough to stop it for the replay, and start it right back up for Photoshop. So stay tuned for 4 more minutes, and then we'll do that. Let's get a couple more out of the way here in 4 minutes to see what I can do here. Let's talk about, yeah, let's do a tethered shooting tip. So I'm going to make a new collection. And here we'll just make a new collection real quick. I'm going to make a manual collection called art, wall art. Now that I have this new manual collection, I'm not going to include any of the photos. I'm just going to make a blank collection. So that wall art collection is right there. It has nothing in it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my camera and I want to now shoot tethered into Lightroom into that collection, which is a hidden gem. So first and foremost, I take a USB cable and plug it into my computer, which it already is, and plug it into plug it into my camera. Hang on for a second here. I need two hands to do this. All right. So the next thing, now that I've connected the camera up, I'm going to go ahead and go to my File menu, and under the File menu, you have Start Tethered Capture. When we start Tethered Capture, you can name your photos, whatever you want them to be called. You can start the number wherever you want to start it. And now a new hidden gem is that your photos that as you take them, they normally go straight to a folder. In this case, they'll go straight to a folder called Wall Art. But they'll also be added to whatever collection you want. So I can say add them to a collection called, hang on, I gotta go back up to where they are. We're gonna go to Demo and Wall Art. There we go. So I want to add them to that collection as well. All right, so next I'm going to go ahead and say OK. And right now it says no camera detected because I don't have a camera turned on yet. So let's go ahead and turn it on. And now it says that there's a Nikon D810 connected, and I can go ahead and zoom in all the way across the room over there to some wall art and take my photo. And that will bring the photo, which is dark over there, that will bring the photo right into Lightroom. Now, one of the hidden gems, and this will be the last one, maybe the last one before we have time, notice the control bars there. And normally what I would have told people to do is, even if you're going to look at this in loop view, you want to turn that control bar off because it's in the way. So you would have hit Command T or Control T on Windows to get rid of it. Now in Lightroom CC, I can just go full screen. And when I go full screen, it automatically gets rid of it. So dark over there, I can't even find anything to focus on. All right, but that will bring in my next shot. And, yeah, there we go. Bring in the next shot, and I don't have to worry about that control bar. So shooting tethered into Lightroom is as easy as connecting the cable to a compatible camera and starting your tether capture. Your images are automatically transferred to a folder wherever you designate in the tether capture window, and now you can shoot tethered full screen, which will turn off all the rest of the interface so you can concentrate on what your photos look like. All right. What do I suggest? And this is the last one because we've got to stop. But what do I suggest if Lightroom gathers all of something? Sorry, can't example right now. It gets wonky. Well, you have to really think about why is it gathering all of something. You'd have to determine what your criteria is probably too broad and narrow your criteria down so that it doesn't grab everything. So guys, we're going to stop this stream. You guys don't have to go anywhere if you're watching live. For those of you who are watching a replay, that ends today's session on Lightroom Hidden Gems. Now we're going to start a new one on Photoshop, Introduction to Photoshop CC, all about Camera Raw and the Camera Raw filter, more importantly. So don't go anywhere. Bye, everyone else.